not-for-profit, tax-deductible charity organizations. So we do not endorse, we do not lobby without registration, and we do not provide any funding for candidates. However, we can go on break, which we are doing right now. So we are ending the 501c3 space for an hour and then coming back to it in about 45 minutes. And then in that 45 minutes, we have an opportunity to become individuals doing this good work of being in the civic and political space. Engage has a 501c4 arm, Muslim Civic Coalition has a 501c4 arm, and there are other 501c4 leaders here. If you are a C3 leader, you're here in your own capacity as an individual. If you are a politician or a politically elected leader, you do you, because we need you to do you. And if you're in a C4 or PAC, you're fine. And the reason we say those disclaimers is that in 1 year from now, the Midwest is going to be hopping. July 15th to 18th is the Republican National Convention in Wisconsin, in the heart of the Midwest, in Milwaukee. And I'd like to introduce Wasim Malas, who is actually executive director of the Wisconsin Muslim Civic League. They will be the host convening organization for all of us. We will work with the Republican community and Republican National Convention. We will work, and Wasim and the team will help lead it there.
We'll make them almost so.
Good luck with that. Big task.
In August 19th to 22nd, 2024, so in August, 1 year from now, the Democratic National Convention is in Chicago, Illinois. One of the reasons we wanted you to see this is where it's at. McCormick Convention Center will be many of the breakout sessions and the hotels that you would be staying in. We will be there, and the Muslim Civic Coalition Activate will be the host convening organization for the Muslim community in Illinois. United Center is going to be where the actual convention is held, but if you know where United Center is, it's in the midst of the West Loop and further west side that has not yet been developed. And the mayor is working on it, and Anthony's going to keep them honest with the housing and the and the gentrification on it. So I would like for just a second for the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition Activate Board to please stand up. Asad Ghani, Anthony Simpkins, Rod Bashir. And our past board members, Asad Khan, and then Rima Kamran, and several others. And what the Democratic Party has done is actually reached out to us and engaged us. We've been meeting with them for 3 months already. And moving forward, we wanted you all to hear as well. So very, very early, no plans have been finalized, nothing has been laid. But Mansour Khadir, who has worked for, Mansour, that is so perfect timing, I can't even tell you. So Mansour Khadir, who's been working for the DNC for 6 years through several conventions and helped lead the Muslim leadership in the last convention along with Engage, what's the Engage C4 name? Engage Action, and several other organizations. The Muslim Activate was there as well. So today, I want to cede my time and all of our next steps over to Mansour, who is our guide through this. He is a little bit in Illinois, because he has family here, so I'm going to say he's an Illinois kid as well. But he's certainly, a lot of his work is in DC and Maryland and the work there. Mansour comes with incredible experience. I explained it a little bit before he joined us, but he will be our guide through some of this. I also wanted to introduce Alice Hornbrook, who is part of the DNC and will be working with us. And Mansour, take it from here. Who you are meeting with are Muslim elected, appointed, and organizational leaders from across the nation. Over 25 states are represented today, and over 105 leaders have come through today's program. And Mansoor, I'll let you take it from here.
Hey, assalamu alaikum. First, thank you so much, Dilara, for that really nice introduction. I really appreciate it. I think I see some really familiar faces. It's a little bit challenging to be able to recognize everyone in the room per se, but I see a lot of folks that I think I recognize, and a lot of folks that I'm hoping I recognize. One is assalamu alaikum. My name is Mansoor. I am a political organizer. I served, as Dilara mentioned, I served with the DNC for about 6 years. I had several different leadership roles. I was a senior advisor to the DNC political and coalitions department. I oversaw a portfolio that included electoral investments, providing campaign support, supporting coalitions outreach through 2 midterms and the 2020 Biden for president campaign. Pretty exciting. My background is in electoral engagement, coalition building, and political strategy. I also happen to work for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. That's the arm of the Democratic Party in charge with electing Democrats to Congress. I've been an aide to Chairman Tom Perez, Amy Harrison, and also DCCC Chair Ben Ray Lujan. Now he's Senator Ben Ray Lujan. Back then he was just a congressman. And then even before then, when I worked for him in 2008, just a guy. I've dedicated my career to getting more people to participate in civic institutions. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country as an adult. I recognize the importance of our community, full stop. And I recognize the opportunity that the Democratic National Convention next year will have for not only Americans, but Muslim Americans in particular. It's an opportunity to showcase the strength of Muslim American political power, an opportunity to showcase our community and our values, underscore our values in particular, and to empower us and to empower you on issues that we care about. With that said, I wanted to have a discussion. I wanted to definitely introduce my former colleague, Alex, and I see that one of my really good colleagues, one of my good close friends and former colleagues, Vincia Berry, is also on the call. And I just wanted to sort of recognize her and recognize Alex for their work and their dedication to the party and to supporting the diverse coalition that we have. In particular, I wanted to introduce my Alex. Alex is the former Director of Advance for Vice President Biden's office, so back in the day when the President was Vice President. He was also advance for the Hillary Clinton campaign. He was the Director of Debate Planning for the presidential Democratic debates that we had, which were an enormous effort and an enormous amount of work. And I remember I spent a lot of time myself working on those debates, and I can't even imagine the level of efforts that Alex shepherded. He's also Director of Planning for the DNC Convention Planning, which has been obviously an enormous effort by itself as well. So what I wanted to do is, I wanted to throw it to Alex for him to be able to walk us through the Democratic National Convention, and then we're just going to open it up to questions. With that said, Alex, I'll throw it to you if that's okay.
Sure, thanks, Mansoor. Great to see you. We miss you terribly at the DNC. It's great to see you today. And I'm not sure for folks in the room, if I put some slides up on my screen, or folks in the room able to see that, I'll just while here, I'm just going to do it, and hopefully you all will be able to see that. Give me 1 second. You know what? I may actually not have the.
I think we might need to make you co-host so that you can share the screen.
3.5 years into
Oh, it's a, only if it's easy. I can just talk if it's complicated.
No.
It's
So
easy.
He's got something he wants to share. Here you go. There it is. Okay,
You're good.
you're good.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Great. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Here we go.
There it is. We can see it.
No, good.
Now you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, okay, you know, it's telling me that when I'm sharing my screen, I'm automatically muted. I don't know. Okay, you know, they're not that impressive. The slides aren't too fancy, so I'll just talk.
The slide looks pretty good.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
He says when he
Hold on,
shares
I'm
the
gonna
screen,
let
it
you
mutes
speak
him.
also, hang on.
Okay, go ahead and try to share, and then I'll make sure you're unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still muting him.
Yeah, can you unmute yourself now?
I was gonna say, I can, Hornberg, I can share the slides for
There you
you.
go. I think
All right.
Okay,
Now
That'd be
okay.
great.
Sorry about that. We should have done a test drive before we started. Sorry about that, everybody. Brencia, I'm sending them to you right now. But I'll just start by saying that we are very, very excited, as I think was mentioned in the introduction, for our 2024
Alex, just
National
try it
Convention.
one more time, because I think now it made you host.
Yeah, I
So
think
you can't do everything, but I don't know. Don't close my tabs.
Nope, still muting him.
Yeah, yeah.
Nope, it's still muting
Okay,
him.
it'll have to be.
No,
sometime.
go to his picture and unmute. Yeah.
Go to his profile. Yeah.
No, it kicked him out of hearing.
All right, sorry, go ahead, Brencia can share.
Okay, no worries. So just as a bit of background, as Mansour was alluding to, it's been you know, a very long and you know, complex process. There's quite a bit that goes in, as you can imagine, to first selecting the city to host the convention and then to actually execute the convention itself. So we actually did you know, begin this process way back in the very beginning of last year of 2022. Actually, no, even earlier than that, the very end of 2021, started doing outreach to cities, you know, gauging who might be interested in bidding to host our next convention. And we really conducted a long and rigorous process over the course of last year and the early part of this year, soliciting bids from a variety of cities. We got some really great, strong bids for, I know this group is from all over the country, so we had bids from, you know, ended up having 4 really strong bids from cities in every region of the United States, and spent a lot of time with our, you know, expert advisory group evaluating those bids, talking to the political leadership, civic, you know, community leadership, venues, etc. And you know, ultimately, President Biden and Chair Harrison chose Chicago to host us next year, which we are really thrilled about. And folks in Chicago have been, you know, just incredibly welcoming and warm and excited, and really ready to, you know, to get to work to put on a fantastic convention for our party and for President Biden and Vice President Harris, who, you know, obviously, you know, were sort of robbed of the opportunity to have a full-blown in-person convention back in 2020, since we were, you know, in the midst, obviously, of COVID, and we had a lot of great, innovative ways to connect at that 2020 convention that a lot of folks, you know, enjoyed. I think helped us to bring our party and our message to people where they are. But we are very much looking forward to being able to well, utilize some of those tools again, also be able to get together in person next year in Chicago. So, you know, one thing that I just usually start with, because I know a lot of folks, you know, particularly if you've never been to a convention, but even if you have, it's easy to kind of get, it's like a big, sort of complicated thing that folks sort of can get lost in, like, what are we actually doing here? What is the point and goal of the Democratic National Convention? And so, you know, just like to remind folks that the real purpose, there's a lot of great stuff that goes on around the convention, a lot of great content, a lot of great discussions, a lot of great parties, of course, but the goals, the purpose of our gathering every 4 years is twofold. One is to nominate our candidates for president and vice president. So obviously, you know, we expect to be renominating President Biden and Vice President Harris. That's really important, and you know, even regardless of whether you have incumbents, whether you have a contested primary, no primary, you know, you don't actually get on the ballot in the 50 states until you are officially nominated by your party. Oh, thank you, Brencia. So yeah, we're just kind of on that next one right there. So as I was saying, first purpose, nominating our presidential and vice presidential candidates, and then second purpose really is to conduct some of our critical party business, most notably passing our party platform, which outlines, of course, all of the policies and values, as Mansour was referencing earlier, that our party stands for, and that all the reasons why we think folks should go ahead and vote for our candidates in November. So those are the two big things: nomination and the platform, the real kind of heart of the business that we conduct every 4 years at the convention. And so we'll be doing that next year from August 19th to the 22nd in beautiful Chicago, as you can see right there, which I believe you all are sitting right close to that picture right now. So anyways, as I had mentioned before, we had a number of really strong bids. I'd like to highlight for folks, why we chose Chicago, which is outlined on the next slide here. The Midwest, obviously, the Upper Midwest, really critical part of the country for us, electorally and politically. All of you, obviously, being elected officials, appointed officials, etc., understand. I don't have to explain too much to you all how important the Upper Midwest was, both for President Biden and Vice President Harris in 2020, but also to all of the great successes that we saw in the midterm elections last cycle, obviously going to be equally crucial for us next year as well. And the bid really brought together a whole wide variety, a range of great coalition of leaders and folks from across the Midwest. Really, the DNC and White House really felt like Chicago and the Midwest broadly represented the swath of the Biden-Harris coalition that we're going to be relying on once again to reelect them and our fellow candidates up and down the ballot, as well as just a ton of great opportunities to highlight all of the real-world impacts that the Biden-Harris agenda is having on everyday Americans' lives right now. But as great as any message, and every city has their own great message and story to tell, that is only as good as the logistics that underpin the city. Because for a major event like this, the operational aspect of it is critically important. It doesn't matter how good your message is if everyone doesn't have a smooth and easy and good experience in the city. And so with Chicago, we have all of that and more. They really have a terrific, as you're I'm sure experiencing right now, terrific venues, the hotel community there, the restaurant community. There's just so much to support us there, as well as the full-throated support of all of the elected officials across the city and the state. So that is just a very broad outline of why we are so excited to be coming to Chicago. And then in that more kind of mechanical or operational vein here, you can see that one of the great things about Chicago, which again you may be experiencing yourselves at your conference, is that it's the third biggest city in America, so there's so many resources and so many great things available to you, but we're also able to have our meeting in a really pretty compact and easy to handle footprint for all the folks who are going to be attending. So some of these just kind of key spots you see here: the United Center, home of the Bulls and the Blackhawks, is going to host our official convention proceedings. That's what most people think of when they think of the convention every 4 years, what they kind of watch on TV. A lot of the big speeches and programming that takes place in the late afternoon and evening, and so that's where the official proceedings will take place in the evening, where we'll have our nominations, our votes, roll call, president, vice president remarks, etc. A lot of our important party business that happens during the day, and this is the work of all of our caucuses, councils, standing committees. I don't know how familiar many of you are with the work that Mansour and Brencia do with all of the various constituency caucuses and issue-based councils that we have here at the DNC. They'll be meeting all day, every day during the 4 days of the convention at McCormick Place to conduct their work, as well as our platform committee, rules, credentials committees, all the other standing committees that kind of funnel their work into the convention every year. We have a significant official hotel block, which is clustered largely in the kind of downtown, South Loop, North Loop, River North area, although we do have some properties around McCormick and scattered around the city as well. So as I mentioned, just really great resources and a great, big, vibrant, diverse city, but also pretty easy to utilize for us logistically. So then here I just wanted to give you a few resources. I was going to talk a little bit more, but just a few resources for the future. I should have started by mentioning that we all work. As Mr. mentioned, the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic National Convention Committee is our party arm that's charged with executing the convention, but we work hand in hand with our local host committees and the folks in Chicago on the ground who will be providing a lot of the political, non-partisan, logistical, and operational support, as well as conducting the community engagement program and activity for folks on the ground in Chicago. And so we each have some resources here. Our DNC website, demconvention.com, will just have some general updates. There's an inquiry form, which we do actually read and respond to everyone who submits something for us there. There's a resume bank if you know folks who are working on the convention. There'll be just candidly minimal opportunities in the immediate future, but as we ramp up next year, we'll be hiring more folks. So please do let folks who might be interested in the convention know they can go ahead and submit their resume on our website there. And then the host committee, Chicago2024.com, they'll be providing a lot of more advanced Chicago updates. They'll also be taking the lead on running our volunteer program. So folks who are interested in volunteering during convention week can go ahead and sign up. There's a link there on the host committee website. And then of course we have all of our social media handles. You can go ahead and follow us on those accounts. And then our email for convention inquiries is convention@dnc.org, which again, we really do, does not go into a black hole. We really do check and respond to that as quickly or in as timely fashion as we're able to. So feel free to share that with folks who are looking to get in touch. So that's like the very broad overview, and I'm sorry I didn't know if there's anything else specifically you wanted to touch on. Just wanted to let folks ask a few questions.
Sure. Well, yeah, I definitely think I want to throw it to questions, but I want to emphasize, I want to just put this in context. So the President of the United States is going to be seeking the nomination for his party for another term as President of the United States. And he's going to be doing it in Chicago. And for 4 nights, the political attention of not only the country, but essentially globally, will be in Chicago. The epicenter of American politics will be in Chicago next summer. And so I want to make sure that, as Alex just walked us through the details, you have some sensibility about what we're talking about here. And the re-election of the president is an enormous operation. The Biden-Harris campaign announced $70 million plus, $74 million in cash fundraising this year. This will be a $100 million, hundreds of $1 million operation that's going to culminate in the nomination of the president next summer in Chicago. So in terms of the political value, the political importance, the political attention, this is on a scale that is at least unprecedented at this moment. And certainly conventions have been in Chicago previously, but the number of eyeballs, the interest level that's going to be on this particular convention compared to previous is going to be a lot higher. So I want to just make sure that folks, as you're sort of, as you absorb Alex's presentation, have some sort of connective tissue to the larger context that we're talking about here. So, so with that said, I just wanted to throw out to see if there's any questions about the presentation.
Alex, I wanted to thank you for the presentation. And we have in the audience a number of elected and appointed officials from across the Midwest, including the mayor-elect of Akron, Ohio, several elected officials at the state level from Texas, Dr. Elahi, Brother Samba from Wisconsin, Sister Manira from Ohio, and then of course we have our Illinois elected officials, and we have several at the municipal level and others as well. We want to make sure that you get a chance to connect with all of them if you have not already, to engage them in the convention itself. We would like to see a presence of the American Muslim community, so we will do our part, and Brencia shared with us last week, we are way ahead of, like, she's like, nobody else has really come to the table yet with us, and so we are ahead, because what Mansour said, we get it. We understand the power of being in Chicago and the power of being in this space with you all next year, and we are ready. Maybe in years past, our community has not been as clear about who we are, what we bring to the table, and how ready we are, and we are ready. Over the last 2 years, many organizations led by Al-Hibri, PAC, Engage Action, Muslim Civic Coalition Activate have been at the table working with the DNC, but moving forward, we're ready to help and do more. So we have a couple of asks. One, please keep engaging with us all along the way, in the way that Mansour and Brencia and others have been engaging with us already. Number two, please at every staffing level, have those who identify as Muslim. We come in every race, we come in every class, we come in every age group, we come in every background. Chicagoland and Illinois has the largest per capita Muslim population in the nation. And across America, Muslims are the youngest faith group in the nation, which means we are decades of voters, public officials, etc. to come. And add on top of that, we are ready to take our place in the political space. So please, all of us here in this room will make sure we get resumes to you that can work for the DNCC, and you please make sure you have them at every level, if that would be an ask. And then for our group, I would ask, what are ideas that you have for Alex, Brencia, Mansour, Michelle Villegas, and the others that we have been speaking with on the DNCC team, on the DNC team, and what are questions you have for Alex on next year's convention? You will have 1 minute so that we can get a lot of people to speak, to pose your question or your comment. And it's open mic, so please come on up, you can make a line, and we can do this, and that we have another 20 minutes with them. So we want to make sure we cover as many people as possible.
Thank you, Delara. You're doing a great job. Thank you for bringing us together and bringing us with them.
And we wanted to bring you together at the get-go, like not after all the plans have been laid, but as we're laying the plans. Yeah. Alex, any thoughts on what I asked in terms of like staffing and engagement?
Sure, yeah, as I mentioned, we have our resume bank on our website, so please do direct folks there. It goes straight, that way goes straight into our system and doesn't, please flag resumes for me, but if they put them into the website, they won't get lost in my inbox. And we are, as I mentioned, not really started up our hiring ramp yet. We're still kind of in the mode of starting to draft job descriptions, put our charts together and things like that, so you haven't missed anything, but as we do, get positions, job descriptions finalized, posted, and so forth. We'll, obviously be sharing those with our colleagues, on Brencia's coalitions team, and so we'll make sure that, they're shared widely and go on to email distribution lists and all that kind of things that folks, have the opportunity to express interest. So we're looking forward to that over the, course of the rest of the summer and into the fall, really getting into the meat of that process.
Yeah, Alex, and I was just gonna add, Alex and I work really closely together and our teams work really closely together. So we wanna make sure that we are considering people from all aspects of the Biden-Harris re-election and Democrats up and down the ticket. So, it will be a team effort, not just for the DNCC, but also for the DNC and the campaign from our end, as resumes are flagged.
Okay, so I don't think you can see me, so we're good. So nice to meet you. My name is Ndidi. I, for one, am looking forward to an in-person DNC. I was on a panel for the 2020. It was all virtual, and I did feel cheated. Like I wanted to be in person with all the people, but I was glad that we were able to represent with Muslim Coalition for Good Government. And my question is really about the structure in terms of, I think Alex was saying areas that people can plug in and areas that are that you'll be ramping up in terms of the support that's needed. I know you also had a call for resumes. My question is, in this space, giving us some kind of structure of what type of support you're needing now and that you will eventually need, because maybe we can be thinking of people that we can, direct, of the right people, and not just a bunch of random resumes and things like that. All right, that's my question.
Sure, yeah, that's a good question, and I'll try to be concise with my answer since I know we have limited time, but obviously happy to follow up directly with anyone after the meeting as well. So broadly speaking, as I mentioned, we're putting together job descriptions now, but broadly speaking, I would say the bulk of the jobs with the convention committee itself, fall under a sort of operational and logistical bucket. We have folks who will work closely with the United Center, managing all of the various kind of construction and staging that we'll be doing, as well as the suite and hospitality management, things like that, as well as working with the McCormick Place. Things that we manage with the host committee include areas like housing, transportation, credentialing, security. So it's a lot of sort of like project management and more kind of nuts and bolts logistical and operational work, as opposed to some of the more like pure political outreach work that falls more on the campaign side. Obviously, having that political sensibility and background is really helpful in executing those tasks. We are a political committee, but a lot of our jobs are going to be kind of more in that operational lane. And then the host committee, as I mentioned, also will be hiring as well, and they'll be really focused, in addition to supporting us in those areas I just mentioned, on doing the local Chicago-based community outreach. And engaging with folks in the neighborhoods where we will be, and all across the city, to make sure that people in Chicago feel connected to the convention. So on the host committee side, they'll have more of that kind of engagement role.
And that's important because businesses.
Assalamualaikum. Cheryl said it. I'm actually here from Northern California.
Great.
But I'm an Illini, so bigger class. Yeah, I'm an alum from Urbana. It's the only one campus that matters, so it doesn't matter. I do want to say, I want to underscore what Ms. Delara just mentioned about making sure that there are Muslims involved at every level, and different type of Muslims involved, because we just had a great conversation in our leadership breakout, and I want to make sure, because I'm a delegate in California. I also, besides being my regular elected position on the water board, I also am elected as the Northern California Environmental Caucus leader. So, but what we normally see is that when the Democratic Party handpicks Muslims, it's based on the same stereotypes that gets parties in trouble. And so I would like for the DNC to be very intentional about talking to the Muslim community about who best represents the voice of the Muslim community, not who the DNC believes best represents the voice of the Muslim community, and making sure that that is just as varied and just as wide and voiced as not just the people in this room, but the people in our community. I happen to be Latina, I'm Black, my father's family is also Jordanian, and I am a person with significant disabilities, and I've never once seen anybody on that stage ever representing that dynamic. And so I'm really tired of seeing our community be used to further an agenda, but we never get a place in the same spotlight when it comes to talking. I don't want to be at McCormick. This community needs to be over at United. Since no one else was going to say it, I was going to say it. So since we are going to be part of the host committee, I want to make sure that we have a spot on that stage, and that our Muslim needs and wants and voice is heard. You are correct, Sir Mansour. The whole world will be watching, and that is an opportunity for the Muslim voice to be seen and heard globally. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree. And, you know, Mansour and I have worked together in this space, and we hear you and we see you across the intersectionality of the representation that needs to happen. I know our team is working closely with our interfaith chairs who you know, represent, we have Muslim leadership on that council. And now that we have these lines of communication open, we'll continue to work with Delara and, you know, just have these real conversations about what it needs to look like and what we need to do to make sure that we have not just that representation, but also have people that have a seat at the table at all levels of this operation. So, I mean, you have our commitment, and Alex and I work very closely together, that we will definitely continue this conversation and make sure that we have that representation.
One thing I might add also, as a suggestion to encourage folks to do, is to run to be a delegate at the convention. Each state delegation, those delegation members are the people who vote on the floor of the convention, who vote for the nominee, and who vote to pass our party platform. And the DNC does not pick the delegates. Those delegates are elected at the local level in all 50 states and our territories and Democrats abroad. So definitely encourage you, to everyone and everyone who you work with to, get involved with your state party. The DNC's Party Affairs Division helps to support state parties as they run their delegate selection processes. But those are the folks who have the vote on the floor, and everyone has the opportunity to get engaged and to run for delegate.
That's a great point, Alex. And we're happy to connect Delara with you and whoever else makes the most sense with our party affairs team. Our team has worked closely with them on that, on trying to increase the diversity for our delegates and delegate selection. So we can definitely make sure we connect as well on that.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. This is Anthony Simpkins. Mansour, it's good to see you again. It's good to meet you, Alex and Princia. And just to get an idea of, because as you said, this is going to be a big stage. We want, as a Muslim community, want to be engaged. And as an aside, in connection with that last comment, Chicago, obviously, for many, many decades, was really the epicenter of the African-American Muslim community. So we definitely want to see a strong representation during the convention there. And my question is really, what does that engagement look like? What does it look like, right? What are the ways in which we can be on the stage, we can be engaged with the convention, and we can have a voice in the convention? And also, what are the efforts this is when you guys are going to engage a lot of businesses. It's security, and restaurants, and transportation, that kind of stuff. What are the efforts to make sure that there's good vendor diversity, but also local vendors, and as a representative of the Muslim community, make sure that we have a significant number of Muslim vendors too. So those two questions.
Muslim media next.
Yes.
And media and marketing and all the other 400 types of vendors that you guys will probably have.
Yeah, I can speak to some of the mechanics of the vendor piece. So we do have, as part of our agreement with the host committee, we do have a number of requirements for diverse vending and community engagement. And so we just selected Chicago in April. So we're only about 2 months in, so we're kind of in the middle of the pivot. So sort of like I was describing before with hiring, we're just writing the job descriptions. We're also just now starting to write the RFPs and do all this kind of stuff. So, nobody has missed anything yet is the first point I would make. But we do every year for the convention require a diverse vendor directory. The city of Chicago actually has one of the best municipal diverse vendor directories. So we're working with the host committee with the Johnson administration. Obviously we have to give them just a minute to catch their breath and get into office before we start delusional them with all of our questions for them. But we're going to be working with the Johnson administration and the host committee to make sure that we are either taking advantage of the city's existing infrastructure or building something that makes sense for us that vendors in Chicago can register and that we'll be able to utilize not only for ourselves but also the convention itself. Obviously, yes, will require a lot of vendors, we'll be spending money, but there are a million other different things, as you all know, if you've been to conventions, that happen around us. Tons of organizations, corporations, progressive orgs, things like that will come in and do their own events, panels, receptions, and so forth. And so we'll have a diverse vendor directory that'll be available not just for us, but for all the other folks who are going to be coming to town, who are going to require those services as well. And so our host committee now is in the midst of drafting a plan, a community engagement plan, of which diverse vending will be a key pillar. And so we'll be reviewing and refining that plan with them over the course of this year, so that next year, we're not spending a lot of money this year. This is kind of like the plan making phase, and then next year is the real kind of like action phase. So by next year, when we're putting out a lot of those, RFPs and so forth, which, similar to job descriptions, will be posted publicly, will also be shared with community engagement, will be shared with elected officials to push to their networks. We'll rely heavily on, folks like you, who are, elected officials and community leaders in Chicago to get those RFPs and other, descriptions out to your networks for us. I'll take it from there.
Yeah, and just on the political engagement piece, and Brincia, you should definitely correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think this is among the particular reasons why we wanted to ensure that there was an early discussion, particularly with this community, about this convention, because there are several ways. Well, one is the opportunity for Muslim political power to be strengthened and to be showcased and to be amplified next summer. And I think there are three very distinct ways to do that, and that were touched upon in this presentation. Number one, and I want to acknowledge the sister who asked the question previously, that it is important for there to be a diverse understanding of what American Muslims are, and showcased and framed at this convention. And the best way to do that is to ensure that there is participation on the delegate side in particular. And there needs to be a concerted effort to ensure that Muslim Americans, both electeds and activists, are leaned in on the delegate selection process. And that is a mechanism of which the party, the DNC, does not have influence over, of which it takes the American Muslim community in and by itself to be able to secure. I want to highlight that. I want to highlight the resumes. I want to highlight the ability for American Muslims to be employed and to be part of the nexus of decision making that occurs at the convention. That includes sort of the vendor services. And then third is to be, particularly for Chicago, and I understand a lot of folks here from other parts of the country, and I want to touch on that as well. Those folks that are in Chicago, you have a chance to convene. You have a chance to be the host convener of all these national Muslim delegates that are arriving in the tens of thousands. You have the opportunity to be the convener. You have the opportunity to host them. And you have an opportunity to facilitate messaging of the party, of the community's political priorities, which I think is very, very powerful. In previous years, Muslims have convened events, hosted activities in parallel to the convention. We did that virtually in 2020, and someone mentioned the participation in the previous. There's a history of doing this. There's a history of not doing it very well. And so I think 2024, and I think this meeting, having this conversation early, will help ensure that we'll be doing it better. And we'll be doing it with much more competence. But participating as a delegate ensuring that we're helping staff. It includes sort of the vendor opportunities or the vendor options. And then third, helping to ensure that we're sort of coordinating, convening folks at the event, at the convention itself. And the convening itself, we can get into the details, but to answer the question, what that looks like, yeah, it's to be able to host, and it's to be able to ensure that there is a space and there's an opportunity for some of the up and coming Muslims, both electeds in this room as well as that are not in this room, to be able to participate and to speak and to highlight their stories. And that's a start, and there's several other, but just wanted to ensure that we touched on that. And so you should definitely correct me if I'm wrong or add or edit anything that I said wrong.
No, I mean, everything you said was absolutely spot on.
All right, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Sorry, I'm the voice in the room, you cannot see me, but I just want to say thank you so much for your time and answering all the questions for us. We really do appreciate it. If we can get a round of applause for thank you. We will be following up with you guys, so please let me know if, I'm Lita by the way, but just let us know if you have any questions. But I hope you have a great weekend, and hopefully it's sunny where you're at.
I'm actually in Chicago. I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you all in person, but I know I will be there with you all soon, and Delara and I will continue to connect in Yemen. So,
Awesome.
good seeing you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sound like a process.